Right now, as you're watching this, someone close to you is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Your best friend? They smiled at you today, but you didn't see the panic attack they had this morning. Your partner? They said, "I'm fine," but you didn't hear the voice in their head saying they're not good enough. Your coworker, who seems so put together. They went home yesterday and cried for an hour. You have no idea why. And here's the thing that's going to change how you see every single person in your life. You're difficult too.
Yeah, I said it.
You watching this right now, you are not easy to be with either. And that's not an insult. That's not me being mean. That's me telling you the most liberating truth psychology has ever discovered. Stay with me for the next 35 minutes, because what you're about to learn will completely change how you understand yourself, your relationships, and why connection feels so damn hard sometimes. This video is made so you can learn something meaningful before you sleep tonight. And I promise you, by the end of this, you'll never look at human relationships the same way again. Let's talk about the battles nobody sees. Here's what nobody tells you about being human. Every single person you pass on the street, ... Every person sitting next to you on the bus, ... Every face you see in the grocery store. They're all carrying something, and I don't mean their groceries. Psychologists call these invisible burdens. And here's the wild part. Most people are carrying between 3 and 7 of these at any given time. Think about your own mind right now. Even as you're trying to focus on this video, there's probably something in the background. Maybe it's small. Maybe it's huge. Maybe it's the text you need to send. Maybe it's the conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's wondering if you're wasting your life. Maybe it's that thing you said 5 years ago that you still cringe about at 2 a.m. Am I right? Of course I am, because that's what it means to have a human mind. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if I told you that the reason your relationships are hard, the reason people misunderstand you, the reason you sometimes feel like nobody gets you, it has nothing to do with you being broken. It has everything to do with something psychologists discovered about the human brain in the last 20 years. Something that explains why even the people who love you most can still drive you absolutely insane. I'll tell you what that discovery is in just a moment. But first, you need to understand something about your childhood that you probably never realized. ... Let's go back. Way back, you're 5 years old, maybe 6. And something happens. Maybe a parent yells at you for spilling juice. Maybe kids laugh at you in school. Maybe you overhear your parents fighting about money. Maybe someone forgets your birthday. Maybe. Here's what happens in that moment that most people never understand. Your brain makes a decision, not a conscious decision. You didn't sit there and think, I shall now develop a complex behavioral pattern. No, your unconscious mind, the part that's always running in the background, it made a rule. If I make mistakes, people will be angry at me, so I must be perfect. If I show weakness, people will leave, so I must always be strong. If I ask for too much, I'm being selfish, so I must never ask for help. These are called core beliefs in psychology. And here's the thing that's absolutely wild about them. They're still running your life right now. That perfectionism that makes you harsh on yourself and sometimes harsh on others. That came from somewhere. That wall you put up when someone tries to get close, that came from somewhere. That thing you do where you say, "I'm fine," when you're absolutely not fine, that came from somewhere. And here's what makes you difficult to be with. Are you ready for this? Everyone else has their own set of completely different rules. Your partner? They learned that love means constant reassurance because their dad was emotionally distant. So they need you to say, "I love you," 17 times a day. But you? You learned that actions speak louder than words because your mom always said nice things but never showed up. So you think, "I love you" is cheap. You show love by doing things. See the problem? You're both loving each other in the only language you know, but neither of you speaks the same language. And both of you think the other person is the difficult one. Plot twist. You're both right. But wait, there's more to this. Because these childhood rules, they're just the beginning. Your brain has been collecting data your entire life. Every rejection, every success, every failure, every moment of joy, every moment of pain. And all of that created you. The complicated, contradictory, sometimes confusing, absolutely unique version of you that exists right now. You know what's actually incredible about this? You're not difficult because you're broken. You're complex because you've lived. Every hard thing you went through made you protect yourself in a specific way. Every person who hurt you taught you to guard a specific part of your heart. Every time life knocked you down, you learned a specific way to get back up. And all of those specific reactions, they make you who you are. But, and here's the part that's hard to accept, they also make you difficult to love sometimes. Let me show you something that's going to blow your mind. Psychologists have identified 7 core internal battles that almost every human being fights. And the crazy part? Most people don't even know they're fighting them. These battles are happening in your head right now. And they're happening in the head of everyone you know. And when these battles collide in relationships, that's when people seem difficult. Let me break them down. And I want you to count how many of these you recognize in yourself. Battle 1. Wanting connection versus fearing rejection. Every human wants to be loved. That's not news. But here's the twist. Every human is also terrified of being rejected. So what do? We play this insane game. We want to get close, but not too close. We want to open up, but not too much. We want to be vulnerable, but not vulnerable enough to get hurt. Some people lean toward connection. They're the ones who text you 17 times a day, who want to know where you are, who get anxious when you don't respond immediately. Are they clingy? Maybe. Or maybe they're just losing their internal battle with the fear of abandonment. Other people lean toward protection. They're the ones who seem distant, who don't text back, who keep their feelings locked up tight. Are they cold? Maybe. Or maybe they're just winning their internal battle to avoid getting hurt again. And when these two people date each other, one person is constantly reaching out, the other is constantly pulling away. Both of them feel like the other person is being difficult, but really, they're both just fighting their own battle. And neither of them realizes it. Battle 2. Wanting control versus accepting uncertainty. Here's a question. Do you like surprises? Some people say yes. They're lying. Or they haven't had enough bad surprises yet. The human brain is hardwired to seek certainty. We want to know what's going to happen. We want to predict outcomes. We want to control our environment. Why? Because thousands of years ago, uncertainty meant danger. The rustling in the bushes could be wind or it could be a tiger. Better to assume tiger and be wrong than assume wind and be dead. So your brain evolved to hate uncertainty. And in modern life, that manifests as control issues. Some people try to control everything. Their schedule, their environment, other people's behavior. They need plans. They need structure. They need to know what's happening next week, next month, next year. Are they controlling? Yes, but it's not because they're trying to be difficult. It's because their brain is screaming at them that uncertainty equals danger. Other people have learned that control is an illusion. So they go the opposite way. They become overly flexible, overly go with the flow, to the point where they won't make decisions or commit to plans. Are they flaky? Yes. But it's not because they don't care. It's because they're fighting their own battle with the anxiety of making the wrong choice. Put these two people in a relationship. One person needs to plan everything. The other refuses to commit to anything. Both feel like the other person is impossible to deal with. But they're both just trying to manage the same fundamental fear. They just chose opposite strategies. Battle 3. Wanting to be seen versus fear of being judged. This is the big one. The battle that makes social interaction feel like walking through a minefield. Every human being has this deep, primal need to be understood, to be seen, to be known. But we also have this equally deep terror of being judged, criticized, rejected for who we really are. So what happens? We curate ourselves. We show people a version of us that we think they'll accept. We hide the parts we think they'll reject. We perform. We pretend. We wear masks. And then we wonder why we feel lonely, even when we're surrounded by people. Because nobody knows the real you. Because you're not showing them the real you. Because you're too afraid of what will happen if you do. Some people deal with this by oversharing. They tell you their entire life story in the first conversation. Every trauma, every insecurity, every weird thing about them. Are they attention-seeking? Maybe. Or maybe they're just desperately trying to find someone who will see all of them and accept all of them. Other people deal with this by undersharing. They're private, mysterious. You've known them for 5 years and you still don't know basic facts about their life. Are they secretive? Maybe. Or maybe they've just been judged too many times for being themselves, and now they don't trust anyone with the real story. Neither approach works, by the way. Oversharing makes people uncomfortable. Undersharing makes people feel shut out. But both people are just fighting the same battle. How do I get people to see me without judging me? Spoiler alert. You can't. People will judge you no matter what you do. The question is whether you're brave enough to be yourself anyway. Battle 4. Needing independence versus needing support. Here's a question that reveals everything about your internal battles. When something bad happens, do you call someone or do you deal with it alone? There's no wrong answer. But your answer shows which side of this battle you're losing. Humans are paradoxical creatures. We need independence, the feeling that we can handle our own lives, that we're capable, that we're not a burden. But we also need support, the feeling that we're not alone, that people care, that we can rely on others when things get hard. These needs are in direct conflict, and everyone leans more toward one than the other based on what they learned growing up. Some people were taught that asking for help is weakness, that you should be able to handle everything yourself, that needing other people means you're failing. So they become hyper-independent. They won't ask for help even when they're drowning. They say, "I'm fine," when they're falling apart. They push people away when they need them most. Are they stubborn? Yes, but they're not trying to be difficult. They're just terrified of being seen as weak or needy. Other people were taught that they can't trust themselves, that they need other people to make decisions for them, that they're not capable of handling things alone. So they become overly dependent. They need constant reassurance. They can't make decisions without asking 17 people for advice. They panic when they're alone. Are they needy? Yes, but they're not trying to be difficult. They're just terrified of making mistakes or being abandoned. Put these two people together. One person wants space, the other wants closeness. One person feels smothered, the other feels neglected. Both people think the other person is the problem. But really, they're both just fighting their own battle between independence and connection. Battle 5. Seeking validation versus building self-worth. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How much of what you do is because you genuinely want to do it, and how much is because you want other people to approve? Be honest, because this battle right here, this is the one that makes people exhausting to be around. Everyone needs some level of external validation. That's normal. That's human. We're social creatures. We care what other people think, but some people need it constantly. Every decision needs approval. Every action needs praise. Every post needs likes. Every conversation needs reassurance that they're doing okay, that they're good enough, that they're valuable. Are they insecure? Absolutely. But it's not because they're weak or attention-seeking. It's because somewhere along the way, they learned that their value comes from other people's opinions. So they're constantly seeking proof that they matter. This makes them difficult to be around because you can never give them enough validation. You can compliment them 100 times, and they'll still need the 101st. You can reassure them constantly, and they'll still doubt themselves. It's exhausting, not because they're bad people, but because they're fighting a battle they can't win. External validation never fills an internal void. On the flip side, some people have decided that caring about other people's opinions is weakness. So they swing hard the other way. They act like they don't care what anyone thinks. They're brutally honest. They tell it like it is. They refuse to adjust their behavior for anyone. Are they confident? Maybe. Or maybe they're just protecting themselves from the pain of caring too much about what others think. This also makes them difficult to be around because they can come across as insensitive, arrogant, or completely unaware of how their behavior affects others. Neither extreme works. Seeking constant validation exhausts everyone around you. Refusing to care what anyone thinks isolates you. The healthy middle ground, having solid self-worth while also being open to feedback, that's the hardest thing to find. Battle 6. Processing internally versus processing externally. This is the battle that causes the most everyday conflict in relationships. And most people don't even know it exists. Here's the thing. People process information differently. Some people are internal processors. When something happens, they need to think about it, alone, in silence. They need time to sort through their thoughts and feelings before they can talk about it. Other people are external processors. When something happens, they need to talk about it. Immediately. Out loud. They figure out what they think by talking through it with someone else. Neither is better. Neither is worse. They're just different. But put an internal processor and an external processor in a relationship. Chaos. Something happens. The external processor wants to talk about it right now. They have thoughts and feelings exploding in their head, and they need to let them out. The internal processor needs time. They're not ready to talk. They haven't figured out what they think yet. The external processor interprets this as, they don't care. They're shutting me out. They don't want to deal with this. The internal processor interprets the pushing as, they're pressuring me. They won't give me space. They're too needy. Both people feel misunderstood. Both people feel like the other person is being difficult. But really, they're both just trying to process in the way their brain works. Neither is wrong. They're just incompatible in that moment. This battle shows up everywhere. In friendships, in romantic relationships, in work environments. The person who needs to think before they speak clashes with the person who needs to speak to think. The person who needs silence to recharge clashes with the person who needs conversation to recharge. The person who processes emotions privately clashes with the person who processes emotions publicly. None of these people are trying to be difficult. They're just existing in the way their brain is wired. Battle 7. Fear of missing out versus need for rest. This is the modern battle. The one that didn't exist before social media and constant connectivity. Your brain is fighting a war between two contradictory needs. The need to be involved in everything and the need to rest. On one hand, you don't want to miss out. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to be the one who didn't see that thing, didn't hear about that news, didn't go to that event. FOMO is real, and it's exhausting. On the other hand, you're tired. You need downtime. You need to not be on all the time. You need to rest without feeling guilty about it. Some people deal with this by saying yes to everything. They go to every event. They respond to every message immediately. They're always available, always present, always engaged. Are they social and energetic? Sure, but they're also probably burned out. They're probably saying yes when they want to say no. They're probably showing up when they'd rather be home. This makes them difficult to be around because they're often exhausted, resentful, or stretched too thin to actually be present. Other people deal with this by saying no to everything. They decline invitations. They don't respond to messages. They disappear for days or weeks at a time. Are they introverted and boundaried? Sure, but they're also probably missing out on connections. They're probably isolating more than they should. They're probably using self-care as an excuse to avoid things that make them uncomfortable. This makes them difficult to be around because they're unreliable, hard to reach, or seemingly uninterested in maintaining relationships. The healthy middle ground, knowing when to engage and when to rest, without guilt either way, that's incredibly hard to find. Now here's where it all comes together. You've got 7 major battles happening in your head at any given time. Maybe more, depending on what's going on in your life. The person you're in a relationship with, they've got 7 major battles happening in their head. Your best friend, 7 battles. Your coworker, 7 battles. Your parents, 7 battles. Every single person you interact with is fighting multiple internal wars that you can't see. And their battles are affecting how they behave toward you. And your battles are affecting how you behave toward them. And none of you are talking about it. Because we've been taught that talking about our internal struggles makes us weak, or needy, or too much, or not enough. So instead, we just act out our battles and judge each other for it. She's being clingy. No, she's losing the battle between connection and fear of abandonment. He's being distant. No, he's losing the battle between independence and vulnerability. They're being controlling. No, they're losing the battle between certainty and chaos. We label each other as difficult, as high maintenance, as too sensitive, as too cold, as too much, as not enough. But the truth is simpler and more compassionate than that. We're all just fighting battles that other people can't see. And we're all difficult in our own ways because of it. Here's the thing that changed my entire perspective on relationships. Nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, today, I'm going to be difficult. Today, I'm going to make everyone's life harder. People wake up and think, how do I get through today while managing all these thoughts and feelings and fears and needs and contradictions in my head? And sometimes, the way they manage their internal chaos looks like being difficult to you. But from their perspective, they're just trying to survive their own mind. So what do you do with this information? Because knowing that everyone is fighting battles doesn't magically make relationships easy. It doesn't mean you have to tolerate behavior that hurts you. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to have boundaries. But it does change something fundamental. It changes how you interpret people's behavior. Instead of asking, why are they being so difficult? You start asking, what battle are they fighting right now that I can't see? Instead of labeling someone as dramatic or cold or needy or distant, you start wondering what wound they're protecting, what fear they're managing, what rule their childhood brain made that they're still following. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior. Let me be clear about that. If someone is treating you badly, you don't have to stay. If someone is crossing your boundaries, you don't have to tolerate it. Understanding someone's battles doesn't mean accepting poor treatment. But for the everyday frustrations, the little things that make people seem difficult, understanding changes everything. Your partner forgets to text you back. Instead of spiraling into, they don't care about me, you might think, they're probably fighting their battle with overwhelm right now. Your friend cancels plans last minute. Instead of thinking, they don't value our friendship, you might think, they're probably fighting their battle between FOMO and needing rest. Your parent keeps giving unsolicited advice. Instead of getting defensive, you might think, they're fighting their battle with feeling needed and relevant as I grow more independent. None of this means you can't feel frustrated. You can still set boundaries. You can still communicate what you need. But you do it from a place of understanding rather than judgment. And here's the beautiful part. When you start seeing other people's battles with compassion, you also start seeing your own with compassion. You stop beating yourself up for being too much or not enough. You stop thinking there's something fundamentally wrong with you because you find relationships hard sometimes. You realize, I'm not broken. I'm not uniquely difficult. I'm not impossible to love. I'm just human, fighting my battles, doing my best with the brain I was given and the experiences I've had. And so is everyone else. Okay, so here's the practical part. Because understanding is great, but application is better. How do you navigate relationships when everyone, including you, is carrying invisible battles? Step 1. Name your battles. You can't manage what you don't acknowledge. Sit down and actually think about which of those 7 battles you're fighting. Which ones make you difficult to be with? Are you someone who needs constant reassurance? Acknowledge it. Are you someone who shuts down when things get emotional? Acknowledge it. Are you someone who says yes to everything and then gets resentful? Acknowledge it. You don't have to fix it immediately. Just name it. Be aware of it. Because once you're aware, you can start communicating it. Instead of just acting out your battle, you can say, hey, I know I asked for a lot of reassurance. It's something I'm working on. It's not about you. It's about my own insecurity. That one sentence changes everything. Because now the other person understands. They're not confused. They're not taking it personally. They know what battle you're fighting. Step 2. Ask about other people's battles. Most conflict happens because we assume. We assume we know why someone is acting a certain way. We assume their behavior is about us. But what if instead of assuming, you asked, I noticed you've been really quiet lately. Is everything okay? Are you dealing with something? I noticed you keep needing to make plans in advance. Does uncertainty stress you out? I noticed you pulled away when I tried to talk about feelings. Do you need time to process? These questions open doors. They create space for people to share their battles instead of just acting them out. And even if they're not ready to share, the fact that you asked with curiosity instead of judgment changes the entire dynamic. Step 3. Communicate your needs clearly. This is the hard one, because it requires vulnerability. You have to stop expecting people to read your mind. You have to stop dropping hints and hoping they'll get it. You have to stop testing people by seeing if they'll do what you need without you asking. You have to actually say what you need. When I'm stressed, I need space before I can talk about it. Can you give me an hour, and then I promise we'll discuss it? I need more verbal affirmation in this relationship. Can you tell me when you appreciate things I do? I need you to follow through on plans. When you cancel last minute, it really affects me. Clear communication doesn't guarantee people will meet your needs, but unclear communication guarantees they won't. Step 4. Accept that some battles are incompatible. Here's the hard truth. Not every relationship can work, no matter how much you understand each other. Sometimes, two people's battles are just incompatible. If you need someone who's always available, and they need someone who respects their independence, that might not work. If you need someone who makes plans in advance, and they need someone who's spontaneous, that might not work. If you need someone who talks through emotions immediately, and they need time to process alone, that might not work. Understanding doesn't fix incompatibility. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is acknowledge that your battles make you a bad match, and let each other find people whose battles align better with yours. Step 5. Practice patience with yourself and others. None of this is easy. You're not going to master it overnight. You're still going to be difficult sometimes. Other people are still going to frustrate you. You're still going to have moments where you forget about battles and just react. That's okay. That's human. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. The goal is trying. Every time you pause before reacting and think, what battle might they be fighting? That's progress. Every time you communicate a need instead of expecting someone to guess it, that's progress. Every time you forgive yourself for being complicated, that's progress. Let me tell you something that might be controversial. People who seem easy to be with aren't actually easy. They're just better at hiding their battles. That friend who never causes drama, they're probably fighting massive internal battles that they just don't share. That partner who's always chill, they're probably suppressing their needs to avoid conflict. That coworker who gets along with everyone, they're probably exhausting themselves by being whatever everyone else needs them to be. Nobody is actually easy to be with all the time, because being human isn't easy. The people who seem easiest are often the ones paying the highest internal cost. They're the ones managing their battles so quietly that nobody notices. They're the ones sacrificing their needs to avoid being seen as difficult. And here's what I've learned. That's not actually better. Being openly difficult, having boundaries, expressing needs, being honest about your struggles is actually healthier than being quietly miserable while appearing easy. The goal isn't to be easy to be with. The goal is to be authentic while being considerate, to know your battles and communicate them, to understand other people's battles and respond with compassion, to set boundaries when needed without apologizing for having them, to be difficult in healthy ways rather than harmful ways. Here's the paradox that makes relationships worth it. Everyone is difficult. Everyone carries battles. Everyone is complex and contradictory and sometimes confusing. And yet, we still connect. We still love each other. We still choose to be in each other's lives, despite the difficulty. Isn't that incredible? You could choose to be alone, to never deal with anyone else's battles, to never have your own battles triggered by someone else's. But you don't. You keep showing up. You keep trying. You keep loving people even though it's hard. Why? Because connection is worth it. Because being seen is worth it. Because loving and being loved is worth it, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. The relationships that last aren't the ones where nobody is difficult. Those don't exist. The relationships that last are the ones where both people see each other's battles and choose to stay anyway. Where both people say, I know you're fighting things I can't see. I know I'm difficult too. Let's figure this out together. That's love. That's friendship. That's real connection. Not the absence of difficulty, but the choice to stay despite it. So as you're falling asleep tonight, I want you to take this with you. You are not uniquely difficult. You are not broken. You are not too much or not enough. You are a human being fighting battles that most people can't see. And so is everyone else in your life. The person who frustrated you today, they're fighting battles you don't know about. The person who loves you despite your complexity, they're fighting their own battles while choosing to stay. And you complicated, contradictory, sometimes difficult, you're doing the same thing. None of us are easy to be with. Every mind carries its own battles, but maybe that's not a problem to fix. Maybe that's just what it means to be human. And maybe the most beautiful thing we can do is see each other's battles with compassion and choose connection anyway. Sleep well, knowing that you're not alone in being difficult. We all are. And that's exactly what makes us all worth knowing.